Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guest and I each pick a film related in some shape or form, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you have two movies to go check out. And meeting me in St. Louis, just kidding, I'm from New Jersey, is my buddy Luke.
Hello, and I'm not from either of those places, but I'm so happy to be back.
Yes, Luke is not from here in the United States. Um, Now, Luke, have you heard it as St. Louis or St. Louis?
I was gonna bring it up, like, do we pronounce it only one way, or do you pronounce it Louis and I'll pronounce it Louis? Like, we can have that.
As somebody from New Jersey, I call it St. Louis, except when I'm talking about this movie and it's Meet Me in
Ah,
St. Louis.
yeah,
'Cause, I don't know. When you say the title Meet Me in St. Louis, that just doesn't have the same kind of ring as Meet Me in St. Louis
correct, correct.
because it doesn't rhyme.
Nope.
So, and we like to rhyme when we're making musical numbers. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, clang 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 goes the trolley.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the most thing that I've known of this film. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we have two Judy Garland films that we're going to be talking about this episode, which is Meet Me in St. Louis and A Star is Born, which for some reason I thought that Meet Me in St. Louis would be longer and that A Star is Born would be shorter. So I guess if you average them together, it's still the same amount of time that I expected to watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, I did not expect A Star Was Born to be a 3 hour movie. But it
Neither did
is,
I.
but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, in minutes after we talk about our first film from 1944, Young Love and Childish Fears highlight a year in the life of a turn of the century family. And that's some broad strokes right there in
Mm-hmm.
synopsis land.
Mm-hmm.
This is directed by Vicente Minnelli. So you might be wondering, why is that significant? Well, because Vicente Minnelli and Judy Garland were married and had a child. Their child, Liza Minnelli. So
Because of
there you
this
go.
movie, yes, because of this movie, we have Liza Minnelli.
There you go. And the more that I watch this, well, not this specifically, but A Star is Born, I'm just like, my God, they are mother and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that. But this is indeed starring Judy Garland, Margaret O'Brien, Mary Astor, and quite the ensemble of actors throughout this film because there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of characters in this
Yes.
particular film. Takes place over a year. But Luke, what are your general thoughts on Meet Me in St. Louis?
Well, because of this movie, we have Minnelli, so 5 stars. No, but
We
on more
have
serious,
Lucille too,
yes,
for those
Lucille
who in the
too.
know.
Yes, Lucille too is awesome. On a more serious note, I absolutely love this movie. It's such a like I wrote in my letterbox review. It's like this is a movie equivalent of like a warm blanket on a cold Sunday afternoon. It's just I wasn't in it at first. I was like, oh, it's actual musical. Like I knew there was like sing and dance, but I was like, oh, it's actually musical. Okay, cool. But then the longer we spent the time with the characters, and then I was like, wait, but nothing is happening. But then you get into the groove of, hey, nothing is happening, and only halfway through the movie we get the crux of the movie, where this family might relocate from the beautiful St. Louis. I'm like, oh my God, whatever we gonna do? Bad in New York to the ugly New York. And I'm like, oh, but I think that was such a smart decision. But yeah, like I really loved it. And yeah, what about you, Shane?
I This definitely lived up to this is a classic musical. It
Yes.
has a very classic old Hollywood kind of feel to it.
Hmm.
It has the production design, it has the costume design. Even like one of these stills, I'm looking at this photo of the family and they're all in different vibrant colored outfits. And
Hmm.
it's that kind of just pops off the
Yes.
screen with like the technicolor and everything,
Beautiful.
hairstyling, the makeup. Like Judy Garland looks like a star.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think some of the biggest key takeaways is Judy Garland is a star
Hmm.
and she's extremely charismatic. She has great presence. She knows how to put on a show for sure. And she has an incredible voice.
Hmm.
And there's some really iconic musical numbers. Obviously, the trolley song was the one that I knew before going into this movie,
Hmm.
which is a lot of fun. It's zany and, has a lot of charm to it. Um, this being a very episodic seasonal story was not on my bingo card because, like, to be frank, I knew nothing about the actual story of this movie going in. I thought that was an interesting choice, and yes, it does take some time before we get the um like the call to action. Is the tension floating around that, like, this might be our last year in our home.
Hmm.
And it has all those little moments of character bits of, like, the whole phone call thing where it's just like, we're yelling, but we really love each other. I thought I was watching Twin Peaks again. And David Lynch just yelling everything.
Hmm.
Um, I thought that was fun. The whole dynamic with the father who's like, I guess I'm the only one in this house who doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Hmm.
And you have all those, like, family dynamics and stuff like that. And then like the Halloween shenanigans. I'm like, this is getting kind of crazy.
Hmm. Yep. I'm like, what is this happening? Like, what's happening right now? But again, like, it's that episodic nature of this movie, and I feel like this in nine movies out of 10, this doesn't work. But somehow they make it work because, the main actress or no, sorry, Judy Garland is the main kid actress, won what used to be like a Best Child Oscar
Hmm.
because she was so delightful.
Margaret
And
O'Brien.
yes, yes, and she is today the only surviving cast member. Apparently, like somebody from this cast died last year, and she is the now only sole survivor of this movie. So I'm like, okay, good for her. But no, like she was great. Like the thing is, yeah, like it's not just Judy Garland because like the movie hinges on her. And
Hmm.
so like when the big finale happens and like she has that plea and she's destroying the snowman on the garden like and like I would rather for them to die than anybody else have them, like I don't want to leave, and she's crying the big tears. Like if she doesn't sell you that moment, that this movie doesn't work.
Mhm.
And she sells it so well, and this is like I think this is ultimately the what I said before, such a smart decision to allow us to spend 1 hour of runtime with this family before we even get to the plot. Like, we just get like, hey, Judy Garland is very intrigued with this neighbor. Like, she's obviously had hots for this neighbor. And like, the sequence when
Hey,
when
hey,
she's like,
guy, you want to help me turn the lights off?
yeah, with the lights. I was like, okay, let's walk around this house very quietly and turn these lights off like manually because obviously, this is in 1903, I think, 1903, 1904 year. So no electricity, petrol, like oil lamps. So you need to actually switch them off manually with like this fucking long stick. And that was such an interesting sequence. I'm like, oh, but obviously, early 1900s, they cannot just say, hey, you want to do something? No, they need to be chill. They need to be.
I want a movie today to kind of spoof and homage that scene
Hmm.
where they're wrapping up like a house party and the girl really likes the guy and it's like, will you help me turn the lights off around the house? And they just slowly walk to one light switch and click it off and all the lights go off. It's
But
like
the
that
problem
just
with that is nowadays they would be like, okay, it pulls up the phone because everything is now electronical, goes to the app, and is like, bedroom lights off.
or that would be
Living.
even funnier. So that's the joke. And I feel like
Yeah.
those in the know
Hmm.
would really appreciate that, and I think it would be funny.
Hmm.
Like the main girl has like a fascination with like old Hollywood movies or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a romance, Luke. It's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
Um, this is very charming,
Hmm.
and it's a very old school charming kind of thing, and like it lives in that space of time where this type of courting and stuff like that was a thing.
Hmm.
And if you think this is outdated and archaic and stuff like that, and you might not like the charm of it,
No.
well, you're missing out. Because like this is a very charming experience,
Hmm.
and you know, there's some crazy moments like the whole Halloween thing and the bonfire and the kids getting all up to stuff and Judy Garland getting mad and heating up the neighbor because she thinks that he hurt her younger siblings.
Yep.
And you know, the dance where was that her grandpa that she goes to the dance with, right?
I believe so.
And
Yeah.
and that was such a charming moment where they danced behind the big thing and she came out with the guy that she really likes. I'm just like,
Hmm.
that was smooth as hell, grandpa.
Yes.
You like wingman for sure. And there's just moments like that throughout the film that just have that little magic. And not gonna lie, as an adult man at this point, Leon Ames, Mr. Smith, I kind of feel for the guy. It's just like this man's just trying to live his life, being being the patriarch of his family. Nobody
Hmm.
tells him anything. He gets
Hmm.
this great opportunity, and everybody's mad at him.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's just like I appreciate the dynamic that he has with his family,
Hmm.
um, and how it evolves throughout the film. And no, this is one of those films like if you told me on paper this is what you're going with, I'd be like, I don't think that's gonna work.
No.
But I give a lot of credit to Vicente Minnelli, who brought the charm, brought
Hmm.
the energy, threaded this all together. I think this large, very talented cast really comes together to make this work.
Hmm.
I think they all feel very organic as a family
Hmm.
unit as well. And this is just that old school kind of charm that I feel like I don't know if it's because the cynical world we live in at this point that like filmmakers can't capture this kind of just like wholesome charm anymore, or that people would just think that it's cheesy and they don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It would be
It's
both. And also, like, imagine today if somebody made a 2 hour movie where the first hour of the movie, nothing much happens. Imagine people complaining about, well, the first hour doesn't have to be here. We kind of, and I think this is what some people, when they say they don't make them like they used to, I would imagine that's what they mean. Is we forgot because of like, our attention span has gotten so bad, myself included. I'm not pissing on everybody else and calling myself the king. No, I like myself very much included, where our attention span does not allow us to just be in a moment. But back in 44, back in the day, you had to be in a moment. So you were allowed certain things like, hey, let's make a movie about this one family, and the story is, yeah, there is a story, but don't worry about it. You will spend some time with them, and despite us living in 2026 now, we can still relate to that family. Not because we live in St. Louis, not because we live in a time where we have all petroleum lamps, because the ultimate struggle of, hey, we want to relocate, it would be logical move to make, but we have our roots here, we have everything we love is here, we don't want to move. So even though logically it makes the most sense for us to move, nobody really wants to do it. And I think that's the sincerity that
mm,
we all strive for. But when we do, or when we say something like that, it's like, oh, you're being so cheesy right now. Oh, you're being so, you know, you're being so, or, life is not like the movies. And it's just like, it's a shame. Like, I understand life is not like the movies, but this is why I feel like now w- many people find these movies as their comfort movies. It's like, it's obviously like heightened reality to an extent. Well, to a large extent, because obviously they sing and dance. So to a very
yeah,
large extent, it's a very heightened reality. But they sell it to you so fucking well. They and it, like and even Judy Garland to me doesn't stand out. Like, she's great, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't. This is more like an ensemble piece.
yeah.
This is more like every person in that family has their own scene where they kind of stand out. Every person has the purpose, so they all work together as one unit of a movie. And to me, that's what I found the most charming is. Why will I rewatch it in the future is not because of the story, not even because of the music. It's because of that cozy atmosphere, the familiar, like, feeling where it's like, hey, this could be kind of cool. Like, if life could be kind of like that, it'd be very nice.
Well, and at least to point out too, in that first part of the film, before we get the whole "we're gonna move"
Yeah.
moment, they set up subplots
Hmm.
that thread through the whole, like the
Yes.
um Esther, Judy Garland's character, and her love interest, that gets set up pretty early. So
Yes.
like they're threads that get set up that pay off throughout the film. And
Hmm.
it's not the big conflict doesn't come around.
Hmm.
But also I feel like most people making movies like this today are like Hallmark and cheesy Netflix movies that don't have the directorial effort, the budget, the production, and all that behind it, and also like talent.
I was
Like
gonna say, let's
from
call it as it is. They don't have the talent necessary.
well, it's one of those things where a lot of studios aren't putting money into
Hmm.
making big films like this. So like most films we get like this today just aren't as good
Yeah.
because they don't have as talented actors that give as thought authentic performances. They don't have the directorial background or the production to
Hmm.
put into the costuming and all of this kind of stuff. It's just this is like a bygone kind of film
Hmm.
from a big studio.
Hmm.
And big studios don't make a ton of musicals in
Oh no.
general. And I get it. I know a lot of people who hate musicals,
Hmm.
but like this is a beautiful old-fashioned bit of movie magic
Hmm.
that I really appreciated. And what you said, Luke, this is that cozy blanket just wrapped around you
Yes.
and
Yes.
just to take it all in for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. No, like honestly, like I knew next to nothing going into this movie. It's it will live on my shelf. I'm not gonna get rid of this Blu-ray because it's such an awesome movie. I can imagine myself rewatching it like once a year and not be bored of it.
Absolutely. Are we ready to head on over to A Star is Born?
Yes, let's see how that star is actually born.
Which, yes, on IMDb, this says it's 2 hours and 34 minutes, but I saw the whole restored 3 hour
That was my first
film
question. Same.
because that's what was on the Criterion channel when I
Mm.
went to go watch this.
Mm.
And this is from director George Cukor, and is the second version of this film that has had four very high profile versions. I actually covered the first one on the Wasteland watch list with Chris
Shameless plug.
Roberts. Shameless plugs. And I reviewed the Bradley Cooper version for my YouTube channel when it came out because
Hmm.
it is still a relatively recent film within the past 10 years. And I have not seen the 70s country version of this with Barbara and Chris
Yes.
Christopherson. So eventually I'll get around to that too because it's
Hmm.
still on the watch list. But a fading matinee idol helps a young singer and actress find fame even as age and alcoholism sends his own career on a downward spiral. And this is starring Judy Garland as Vicky Lester and James Mason
Hmm.
as Norman Maine, who is a freaking hot mess. Before we get into that, like, what are your general thoughts on A Star Is Born?
So my general thoughts, am I still love it, but on a, like a lower side, and there's a
Okay.
couple of reasons for that. But also, before we go through that, so we are on the same in the same boat. I've also not seen the Barbara Streisand version. How would you rate? Because I have my rating of like of all the versions I've seen so far. How would you rate them? Like before we go into this movie.
So, not gonna lie, I
Hmm.
really love the Bradley Cooper version,
Okay.
and that was one of my favorite films from that year.
Hmm.
I I don't want to say I don't want to like if you really press me to rank this, that still might be my favorite.
Okay. Okay.
Um, this one's a little bloated, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been tighter.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really loved the first version.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that felt very modern about it,
Yep.
and it was much leaner and tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I got hit emotionally by it. Um, I I don't know. This version might technically be my least favorite out of the
Interesting.
three, but it's like it's one of those types of things where this is a really close
Mm-hmm.
like selection
Race.
of them for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like there's a big drop off here, but
Mm-hmm.
this might be my least favorite, and it's only because like I don't think this movie needed to be 3 hours.
Same. But funnily enough, like I am on the opposite spectrum when it comes to the newest one. I thought
Mhm.
it's a fine movie that peaked way too early, for me at least. Emotionally, it peaks when she sings for the first time, and afterwards, it's like everything is expected. But again, we don't talk about this movie. So, like for me, this version actually is currently, even with its flaws, it's my preferred choice. But yeah, no, the original, because this is you can say this is the first remake of the of the movie.
It
So the
was. Yep.
original is surprisingly great. Like
Yeah.
original, like if people, obviously we were talking about the 54. If people are haven't seen and don't know, there's a 1937,
Seven.
something like that, around its 30s, 100%. If many have not known, there's like three different versions, and they only know the Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper one. They are worth checking out because, as Shane mentioned, they are all not bad movies.
It's 37,
Yeah,
54, 76 in 2018.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I also haven't seen the 76 one. But yeah, so this one I think I'm maybe on the same boat, but yeah, so this one low side I loved it. I'll get to why, but I still enjoyed myself. What about you?
So this is a film that I think this is the most iconic
Mm-hmm.
version of this story because
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland, man,
Mm-hmm.
is a star for sure. And like whenever she breaks into song and dance, and there's some fits in this film in terms of like the costuming,
Mm-hmm.
like holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll dive into that more. He is a revelation. James Mason is a train wreck,
Mm-hmm.
and he sells that train wreck so well. The challenging thing is this might be one of the reasons why this is slightly on the lower end for me too. Out of the three that I've seen, this one I feel like has the least amount of time where I actually care about him.
Interesting.
Because from the start,
I was gonna say, is it from
from
because
the
we are
start,
introduced to him
he,
and he's a total dick?
yeah,
Yeah.
from the start, he
Mm-hmm.
is a piece of crap, selfish mess of a
Drunk.
human being.
Drunk. Yep. Yep.
And there, like, this had a lot less moments. Like, I did really feel towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's my biggest gripe with the Bradley Cooper version is I hate how they handled well, let's rip the band-aid off. This story's been around for like 90 years.
Yes.
So the big crux of the film is he commits suicide at the end
Yes.
to get out of to get out of her way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I hate the idea that that is caused by somebody else's intervention. Because in the original film,
Mm-hmm.
this is a decision he makes very clearly on his own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the Bradley Cooper version, he's like peer pressured in by this horrible character. And I'm not just talking about like horrible because they're a bad person, a horribly written character that I actually hated in the movie. Now I'm remembering that very distinctly. I hated that character and how that character was utilized in the movie.
Hmm.
And I think there's a little bit of that here, but it's not as egregious. Like there's a guy that calls him out on his stuff
Hmm.
at one point. Um, but this film, those final moments though, between them, I saw it because I struggled to. This is, I think that's one of the things that I struggled a little bit in this film, besides the length, which was I completely disengaged at any point? No, but I'm like, does the neat movie need to be 3 hours?
No, yeah,
Probably not.
agreed.
Is it was hard for me to believe why he loved him so much in this film because so much of this movie he is being a complete and utter asshole and a
Hmm.
mess.
Hmm.
So I buy into Judy Garland as this young woman who has this star potential and she's this rising star. And here's the thing, love's tricky. And sometimes people just fall in love with pieces of crap and they see something through all the mess and stuff like that. And this does have those moments. And I think there's enough of them. I'm not saying that this doesn't completely work, but
Hmm.
I think it was a bold choice to start the film where she meets him at rock bottom
Hmm.
because I don't think that's exactly the case in the other films. Like they're obviously a mess, but like he is a like he I was shocked when he straight up like threw somebody through
Yeah.
like the makeup area and stuff like that. I'm like, holy crap. Like the whole opening sequence of this movie, which I think really sets the tone of the film because George Cukor creates something big,
Hmm.
bold. There's a big, bold feel
Beautiful
to this
journey.
film. It's this is a this has production design, it has scale,
Yes.
and you have these big flashy performances. There's something very old school Hollywood, but also very modern
Hmm.
about the feel of the direction and stuff like that. And George Mason is just George Mason, James Mason is just going for it. Like he is a hot mess. Like the stuff that Norman Maine does in this opening sequence of this movie, going on the stage while they're trying to do their song and dance number.
Hmm.
This is like, my God, this man. And you would think that would be rock bottom.
Hmm. But it's not.
No. And we have that scene at the court
Hmm.
later in the film where I could be rock bottom, but obviously truly rock bottom is like this man kills himself.
Hmm.
But getting there, but there's a lot to chew on in this film because there's a lot of film to experience with this for sure.
Yes. So see, so to address your point, so during whilst I was watching it yesterday, I was in between like there was scenes where I was like, oh yeah, this is 4 stars, and then I was like, oh now this is 5, and I was so like I was shifting back and forth, and I think what ultimately swayed my rating and how I feel about this movie is the dynamic between those two, and when I thought about it in a way where I think they in this movie display love in a very nuanced way because like you're right, he is not a great person. We see him in from first scene, he's a horrible, he's drunk, he's like I'm pretty sure that was the manager or like his like guy who like irons all his issues, and that's what and that's the one who like effectively spits in his face towards the end, like he
Yeah.
got thrown through that. And I thought, the movie portrays the love. It's like, it doesn't matter how the person acts if they found somebody who sees something else in them. And I
Mhm.
think the movie, this movie does very well is it's Judy Garland and the other character, I'm forgetting the like a major, like a studio head or something like that.
Mhm.
They both see him through the pain, through the as holiness, through the alcohol. Like they see him for who he is and who he could be, but they see him as he is, not just the drunk, not just the asshole, but they see him for who he actually is. And that's why I ultimately landed in the still loved it, even though on a lower side, because of this. Like the nuance take where we don't see the this the scene halfway through the movie where they have their own musical section in their living room. You can
Hmm.
see the love. You can see for both. And as much of an asshole he was towards many other people, he read like yes, he ruins her Oscar win, but it's the only thing that he actually does wrong, and even then she could see that he is not right. So like there's no and like she is ready to give up her career because yes, there is a part of her that feels as she says to that person, I owe my career to him. But I think there's also something deeper. It's like I would much rather use the resources I have to help him. And I believe if we both step out of this industry, we can live a long and happy and healthy life. And I think, again, Judy Garland doesn't say that, but I think it's very heavily implied towards the end, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of nuance where many people would, especially from that era, wouldn't have. Even now, to be honest, because like now everything like is kind of on display, and I prefer those movies when it's like you can read in between the lines, not just necessarily like you remember what's been said, but if you can read between the lines, and that's why I ultimately landed where I landed. My one of my points, besides the, I think we both can agree 3 hours is a bit too much. So like, but besides that, I was gonna bring maybe a controversial opinion, maybe. So like, and I want you to challenge me here. I would say Judy Garland is a spectacular performer. I don't know if she was a great of a dramatic, like that great of an actress, because there was some dramatic scenes where it's like this is totally of that era of acting, where it's like I don't know how else to portray my emotions, so I'm gonna do S, and I'm like, oh, there are some scenes where I'm like, girl, like you have enormous talent. Like, so she is a spectacular performer. She is a star. I don't necessarily know whether she's the how do I put this? Best equipped actress. Do you
Well, like for
tell me
this
why I'm wrong?
film.
Not even like even in like not even in this film. I just feel like this was supposed to be her big showcase and her big Oscar win, and and no, you know what? I'll bring this point later because this point will be another few minutes. But like, so please challenge me on this because, or do you think I'm wrong?
Well, I feel like there's context
Hmm.
because it was interesting because I was having this conversation with somebody about Hugh Jackman
Hmm.
because I think first and foremost, Hugh Jackman is a showman.
Yes, yes.
And I think first and foremost, Judy Garland is a Joe person.
Like she's a
Um,
performer. Like she is a
yeah,
legendary performer. No questions there.
but that's what this film calls for a lot of the time, and that's the
Hmm.
vibe
Hmm.
that George Cooper is going for this film.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like it never bothered me that this was like big acting
Hmm.
because that's what this film called for. And that but the thing is it's like I felt emotion like in those final moments
Hmm.
where she calls herself like Mrs. Norm Maine.
Yeah.
Like I felt that. I was half
No, yes.
expecting her to go into a musical like the film to end on a musical number because the Bradley Cooper one ruined that for me because that movie does end on
Hmm.
a big musical number and stuff like that. So I was expecting that in these first two films, and you don't really
Hmm.
get that. Well, to
Hmm.
be fair, the first one's not actually a musical at all. This is the one that like sets that tone.
Hmm.
But like I felt like that final scene between her and him, I felt some real emotion there.
No, the final scene, yes. The final scene, like I'm talking about a few scenes, like before and after, where it's just her. Because I think, the what's his name again? George. I'm
The
sorry. I'm
director,
no. The actor, James Mason.
James Mason.
Yeah, sorry, James Mason. I was gonna say George Mason. I was like, no, that's not it.
That's because I said that earlier.
But I think Jason, he brings out the best in her, and when it's just Judy again, caveat, in a dramatic performances, not in a like again, song and dance, one of the best that's ever lived. No questions. I'm not trying to knock anybody down, especially Judy fucking Garland. Like let's make it clear. But in those scenes where it just relies on her, I felt I seen it through the cracks. I seen there was like some cracks there. I'm not saying totally like she was horrible. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying my other point. Do you know who won that year for best leading actress?
No,
So it was, why her name escapes me right this fucking moment. It's the Queen of Monaco, Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly, for a country girl. Have you seen that movie, Shane?
I have not.
It's fascinating because it's pretty much the same thing. She also has to take care of a drunk. That's literally the role. And I've seen it like a year ago. And without even knowing, this is the role, like this is a clear Oscar winner. Like Grace Kelly, what she does in that movie the same year, I'm like, this is a genuine emotion. She's a great actress by any means. Like, it doesn't matter the era. And she sells you that. Like, the country girl, like, it was apparently neck and neck. It was apparently 6 votes between her winning and Judy Garland losing. That was that. And I was like, as much as I love the performer Judy Garland was, I don't think it should have been for acting Oscar that close. Because I think the performance is one aspect, and if there was a, like kind of like a stunt, like kind of like, if there was a best stunt, but Tom Cruise would have had 20 now, right? And so to my point, like, even when we compare in the context of the year, yeah, I saw some cracks in her performance, and that also took me out just a tiny bit. Whereas like somebody like a year ago, like I still remember the movie Country Girl, Grace Kelly, the performance she puts on is incredible. Not just for 54.
Is that a drama?
Yes.
It's not a musical.
No. No, it's a full-on drama. It's like not
Hmm.
even like it's 2 hours, just shy of 2 hours, I think. Honestly, like if you haven't seen it, huge recommend. Also, I made a comment on my letterboxd. Grace Kelly, just as a side tangent, 1953, she had this movie, she had Rear Window, and she had Dial M for Murder.
Pretty legit.
I was gonna say, like, has there been a year that, an actor or actress had like in these like hit by hit by hit? Damn, that's hard to compete with. Anyway, so like, so I was just gonna bring up that point whether I'm alone in this or not. It looks like I am. Fine.
Well, I'll say I never once questioned her performance in this film.
Okay.
I honestly thought she was incredibly magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this film will not work, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think, without her.
No, like
And
for 99%, just to clarify, for like 99%, 100%, I'm not saying recast her. I'm not saying she wasn't fit for the role. No. This is Garland's vehicle. But there was like the 1% was like, oh, for like 3 hour movie, this takes me out.
I certainly don't think she was the thing that would take me out any moment in this film.
Okay.
I think like did we need to have this many musical numbers and stuff like this that lasted this long? That was
Mm-hmm.
what I felt more the length of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think she excelled in the type of film that George Cukor was asking
Mm-hmm.
for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked those specific questions about Country Girl, because I imagine that was a very different type of film. And
Yes.
here's the thing, I've seen Judy Garland in this, Meet Me in St. Louis, and The Wizard of Oz.
Same.
So these are all big musicals
Mm-hmm.
and that big style of acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't watched Judy Garland in a straight up drama that didn't have this like showmanship aspect of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't know how she was in a role that's 100% reliant upon those elements. But I didn't question her
Hmm.
performance at all in this. And yes, was it big? It certainly was, and it was showy.
Hmm.
And I think that's the type of film this is,
That is
because
true.
this is a big, showy film, which is
Hmm.
very interesting because what was the other biggest movie that came out this year? On the Waterfront,
Oh yeah.
which is the complete opposite,
Hmm.
because that is the method
Hmm.
to, like, if you were going to pick any film that was going to show you the method of acting, that's
Yes.
it.
Marlon Brando, yes.
Well, the whole entire, like, Carl Malden, Lee Jacob, like that is a movie about the method and Ilya
Hmm.
Kazan making very raw, very visceral human drama.
Hmm.
This is an epic 3 hour musical that is big, vibrant, gorgeous, and the performances are big. They are they are so full of so much light. And that's that's what I took away from this. Judy Garland
Hmm.
lit up the screen.
Hmm.
And I think that, like, the comparison that I brought up earlier, the whole Hugh Jackman thing, I was having a conversation with somebody because he is a showman.
Yes.
And I think first and foremost, he is a showman. And I think it's one of the reasons why he gets overlooked and taken for granted when he acts is because, like, but the thing is, I've also seen him in other types of roles. Like, if you tell me that Hugh Jackman can just do big musical performance kind of stuff, I'd be like, watch Prisoners.
Hmm.
Because if you want to watch something absolutely terrifying and deeply emotionally tragic, watch that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't have that reference with Judy Garland, so I haven't seen her in a straight up drama like that. And whether I would question if she had those dramatic chops. But for everything that was asked of her performance in this film, I think she delivered. So I
Hmm.
guess on this one, I would disagree.
That's
But
fair. That's fair.
I've also haven't seen Country Girl, so I'm not going to make a judgment on who deserved Best Actress or not. But I think this is an all-time movie performance.
Like this
And
definitely is like a her like defining performance because from all I could gather from IMDb, uh, this is effectively what ultimately broke Judy Garland. Apparently, if IMDb's trivia is to be trusted, that this is that loss is what kind of broke her, and ever since then she's been on a downward kind of like you know path. As compared to Jason, her partner, who apparently has acted ever since until he died, and
only
took
75.
on took on a protege who happens to just be Sam Neill. I'm like, what? Apparently, yeah, he was tutoring this young actor, up and comer called Sam Neill. I'm like,
Which
wow.
is interesting because they kind of have a similar vibe.
Yes,
If you really think about it.
kind of, yeah. And I'm like, damn. So Sam Neill has a direct connection with this old Hollywood.
Well,
Uh,
and obviously Judy Garland died very tragically at 47 years old.
It's insane.
And because if you look at, like, big movies after this, I know she was in Judgment at Nuremberg, but, like, that was a humongous ensemble piece.
Yes, I've
So,
seen it,
like,
but I don't remember her in it, to be honest.
but I need to rewatch that.
Same.
I thought about rewatching that after I saw Nuremberg. Um,
Hmm.
BAFTA Best Picture nominated
Hmm.
Nuremberg.
Yes.
Interesting. But I think she was electric. She was fantastic. Some of the other things I did want to point out about this film,
Hmm.
the technical aspects of this film are off the charts. Like,
100%.
off the charts. Just looking at some of the stills from this, like, one, the scene where he does swim out to commit suicide, that shot
Hmm.
perfectly symmetrical of the sun and him walking out into the ocean. That's one of the most gorgeous looking shots I've seen in a movie. That whole entire last sequence and how it used shadow, and there's a distance there, and there's something that I think the best acting that James Mason does in this film is in that scene, because there's a subtlety of like there's a tragedy in it, because you can tell
Hmm.
there's something dark that he's thinking about
Hmm.
behind all that like loving talk that he's having with his wife in that moment.
Yes.
The courtroom scene is tragic. Like that judge is like tearing him down, and in a very vulnerable moment, how Judy Garland like stands up
Hmm.
and very emotionally
Hmm.
has to take her take him into her care. That one musical number with her with like the red sweater and the straw hat, that was the moment where I'm like, oh my god, this is Liza Minnelli's mom.
Yeah.
Because like they had a very similar vibe. The one that stood out to me the most is that musical number where he's in that like burgundy maroon-ish jacket with the waistcoat and the hat and those plaid pants, and everyone behind her are all in pink, plum, red. It's like one of the most colorful, vibrant, just designs I've ever seen for a musical number in a movie. And I'm just like, holy crap, the amount of time and effort and detail that they put into these musical numbers was insane. This is like big Hollywood kind of thing. And there's so many like that scene even had her in front of like a wall full of like red flowers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
The musical numbers are big. They are catchy. Judy Garland sells the hell out of them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, yeah, this did they need to be here in this full length? Probably not. But like I'm not, it's hard to argue with them when they're such impactful, impressive musical numbers and stuff like that. Because like trust me, I've watched old Hollywood musicals where I'm just like, they could have cut like 45 minutes of musical numbers out of this and it would have been perfectly fine. Looking at
Hmm.
you, my fair lady. It was one that I had like there was like a whole musical number that was like 10 minutes. I'm like, you could have completely cut this from the movie
Hmm.
and the movie would have been better for it. But there's just so many technical aspects of this film that are marvelous that just makes this such if you wanted to show somebody what old Hollywood was like
Hmm.
filmmaking wise, like this is a blueprint to show them for sure.
Yes, like I would say, like we are effectively having the same debate as studio had at the time. That's why the runtime on IMDb is only quote unquote 2 hours 34 minutes. Because
Mhm.
after like the movie itself was originally 3 hours and like 1 minute or 5 minutes, so it was slightly even longer than what we watched. But it got chopped down while the director was making another movie in India without his knowledge, and apparently back then studio was fucking ruthless, so they burned the original negatives. That's why when he said, you're looking at production stills, there's a parts of the movie that are not been recovered ever. So we're literally looking at production stills with the original soundtrack, however, because apparently during some guys like he was moving or something, he stumbled upon a bunch of negatives of the original Star is Born, this Star is Born, like the soundtrack. That's why the audio is actually still there. So they just basically are playing around with stills, so we have the idea how the scene looked like, you know. So which I thought it was clever enough, like not to chop them out and like pretend they never existed. I thought great, and you can tell there's a couple of scenes that are from a different negative, so they are not as crispy, at least not on my Blu-ray. But no, like anything else, like yeah, that's also what I wrote in my letterbox review. I'm like, but if you have Judy Garland, you'll get let her. Yes. Is there one too many musical numbers? Sure. But if you have Judy Garland in her prime to your at your disposal, you kind of need to use her, and you kind of feel obligated to show us what she can do, dancing, singing, commandeering the scene, grabbing your attention. That's like she was the. You can argue she is one of the most ultimate performers that ever been alive. Like, like as you mentioned, you can argue Hugh Jackman is the greatest showman, and she would be like she is right up there. Like she is
Mhm.
legendary. She became legendary for a reason. Obviously, big chunk of it is her very early, untimely, horrible death and how Hollywood and the system treated her. But it goes beyond that, and this movie is, yeah, it is uncomfortable to think because that's not even that long after this movie she died. Like, 'cause she died like 67.
So like it was 67 or 69, so it was almost 15 years
That's insane
after
to
that.
think.
It's what's crazy to me is I'm looking through these Oscar nominations from this year,
Hmm.
and this wasn't nominated for Best Picture. This was not nominated for Best Cinematography Color.
That's great.
Like,
That's
I need
insane.
to watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers to see why this movie was getting all of this love and A Star is Born didn't.
Hmm.
Like George Cukor wasn't even nominated for director. I'm just like, what was the Academy smoking at the time? Like, obviously, I'm full on board with where is it? On the Waterfront winning
Hmm.
Best Picture and all the On the Waterfront's one of my favorite films of all time. It's an incredible film.
Hmm.
And it is a very different film than this. Um, it's probably an interesting dichotomy to look at those two films and see the different directions Hollywood was going at the
Yep.
time. But this is one of those classic big musicals. And that was fun about this is watching these two classic big musicals because I love musicals.
Hmm.
And I definitely have some blind spots in some of these older old Hollywood musicals to check out. I just watched Oklahoma for the first time a
Nice.
couple weeks ago too, and that did not live up to the hype.
Oh shit.
Um, some of the musical numbers are
Hmm.
very iconic, but like speaking of movies where elements of the courting and how relationships work aged horribly, that's definitely up there.
Hmm.
That's aged very, very poorly. But
Hmm.
I feel like The Star is Born stands the test of time. Like if you want to look at how you do production design and costuming and all kinds of stuff like that, this is incredible. And there's something very special about this film. And if you're willing to put in the time to watch all 3 hours of it, I think there's a lot to wow you with for sure.
And that's why, out of the all three out of four versions I've seen of Star is Born, this is my favorite still. Even despite all my gripes with here and there, this is still my favorite version. Like, yes. Like, am I keen on rewatching it anytime soon, given the runtime? No. But can I see myself rewatching it at some point, like 5, 10 years down the line? Absolutely. Because it is like the ultimate idea is, as you said, like, if the assignment is show a total newbie old Hollywood movies that would make them appreciate the big scope, the big production, the big everything big, this Ben-Hur, like, something like, I still haven't seen Ten Commandments. I know that's often quoted as like that kind of era of like a big scope, big production, but this
Ten
definitely would be.
Commandments.
I still haven't. I need to watch it. I know. I need to watch it. But no, like
I
this
have
definitely
my
would be up there.
I have my 4K of it up there. Um,
I know there's a 4K, so yes.
I need to get a 4K of Ben-Hur, but I do
Oh.
love my beautiful box set
Hmm.
of the original DVD that they released of it. But
Hmm.
well, we checked two big time Judy Garland musicals off our watch list.
Hmm.
And Luke, thank you as always for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Always a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, and next month, we're gonna outdo ourselves because we're gonna talk about the Human Condition trilogy, all 3 hours 10, 3 hours 1, and 3 hours 10 of each of these three movies. So we have some movie watching to do
Yep.
for sure. But next week, I'm gonna be joined by frequent collaborator Jeff as we talk about a double dose of human beings' lives turning into reality television. It is The Truman Show and Ed TV.
Hmm.
So that'll be interesting. But Luke will be back on even before that next month episode because this is episode 98 of the Wasteland Retrospective. In 2 episodes for episode 100, we're going to convene the crew. It is our fearless leader, Mike Hilty, Adam, and Luke. And we'll be talking about 4, yes, count them, 4 Jimmy Stewart films as we talk about Anatomy of a Murder, Flight of the Phoenix, Harvey, and Winchester 73. So a lot of
Mhm.
variety on there, but Luke will be back then. Luke will return
Yes.
for the 100th episode of the Wasteland Retrospective.
For the
But
Wasteland Retrospective end game, Luke will return.
yeah, for
Do 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 do.
it'll be SP Doomsday.
Yes.
There we go. There we go. Nailed it. But thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite Judy Garland musical? There are plenty. She was pretty well known for that. And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding and ever changing in terms of what we're offering for different types of podcasts, all different types of interests and tastes. If you love movies, there's plenty of that as well. But if you want to join the crew as either a guest or on one of our shows, or you have your own idea for a podcast, make sure to reach out to us on our website. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.